deep state. Slight difference. Our opponents, thank you. Our opponents join with warmongers and neocons to wage endless wars, these wars that never end. We don't even know who the hell the country is that we're fighting. We believe that America is strongest when America is at peace. We want peace through strength. That's what we want. Like we had 4 years ago. We didn't have any wars, except we wiped out ISIS very quickly. It was supposed to take 5 years to beat ISIS. I did it in 3 weeks. They support coercive COVID vaccine mandates and want to fire you. If you don't obey, you get fired. We oppose these mandates as a fundamental violation of our God-given rights. We don't want the mandates. We don't want the mandates. They want to arrest their political opponents and silence those who disagree. We reject censorship in all forms, and we believe in freedom, open debate, and fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. Our opponents slander us as a threat to democracy. Trump is a threat to democracy. No, they're a threat to democracy. How many times have you heard, you know, it's a talking point for them, right, Deb? It's a talking point. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. And those guys say it too, because they're the same thing. They're like a part. They're a subsidiary of the Democrat Party. Meanwhile, they rig their primaries. They force out Joe Biden. They force him out of the party. Joe Biden got 14 million votes in an unconstitutional coup, and they appoint a nominee who never got a single vote. And when she ran against this guy, and I'm no fan, he was the worst president in the history of our country. He let in millions and millions of people through her. Let in millions of people would destroy our country. But we're going to get those people out, the people that came in here from jails and prisons and mental institutions. But they threw him out. You know, they ran against each other for the primary, and she never even made it to the first state, the great state of Iowa. Never made it. And now she's the one running. A little strange, isn't it? You see, that's really a threat to democracy if you get right down to it, right? In our movement, we know that democracy does not mean rule by the Democrat establishment. It means rule by the American people. Tonight, I'm very pleased to welcome a man who has been an incredible champion for so many of these values that we all share, and we've shared them for a long time. I don't think too many of you people have heard of him. He's very low-key. He's a very low-key person, but he's highly respected. He is a great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. Whoa. And he deserves it. He deserves it. For the past 16 months, Bobby has run an extraordinary campaign for President of the United States. I know, because he also went after me a couple of times. I didn't like it. And I mean this sincerely. Had he been allowed to enter the Democrat primary, he would have easily beaten Joe Biden, but they wouldn't let him in. They put up rules. I've never seen rules like he had to have 65% of the vote in order to run, you know, little things like that. His candidacy has inspired millions and millions of Americans, raised critical issues that have been too long ignored in this country, and brought together people from across the political spectrum in a positive campaign grounded in the American values of his father, Robert Kennedy, a great man, and his uncle, President John F. Kennedy. And I know that they are looking down right now, and they are very, very proud of Bobby. I'm proud of Bobby. You want to know the truth? And I don't think I've ever introduced anyone that got applause like he just got. I must tell you, I don't think it's true. I don't think I've ever introduced anybody that got applause like that. Amazing. It's true. Amazing. Soon after I can't even believe I have to say this, nearly assassinated in Pennsylvania last month, Bobby called me to express his best wishes. He knows firsthand the risks incurred by leaders who stand up to the corrupt political establishment. When you stand up, you bring on some trouble for yourself, but you have to do what's right. You have to do what's right for the country. I will tell you, we are both in this to do what's right for the country. That's one thing I can tell you. He lost his father and uncle in service to our country, and Bobby himself was subject to repeated threats to his safety during the course of his campaign while being denied protection by the Harris-Biden administration. And this is a tribute in honor of Bobby. I am announcing tonight that upon my election, I will establish a new independent presidential commission on assassination attempts. And they will be tasked with releasing all of the remaining documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and they will also conduct a rigorous review of the attack last month. But I tell you, I have never had more people ask me, please, sir, release the documents on the Kennedy assassination. And we're going to do that. And I also want to salute Bobby's decades of work as an advocate for the health of our families and our children. Nobody's done more. Millions and millions of Americans who want clean air, clean water, and a healthy nation have concerns about toxins in our environment and pesticides in our food. That's why today I'm repeating my pledge to establish a panel of top experts working with Bobby to investigate what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic health problems and childhood diseases, including autoimmune disorders, autism, obesity, infertility, and many more. We want every child in America to grow up and to live a long and healthy life. So I just want to ask Bobby to speak for a little while. I'll stand aside. I'm going to stand aside. But I can only tell you, I've known him a long time. We've been a little bit on the opposite side of the equation, but I will say this, he is a brilliant, I still think of him as young. He's not that young. I always call him young, but he's not that young. But he is a phenomenal person, a phenomenal man who loves the people of this country as much as anybody can love the people of this country. So, Bobby, please say a few words. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you. Now, a few hours after the assassination attempt at Butler, I got a call from a safe food advocate named Kelly Means, who's been fighting for many years to try to end the corruption at CDC and FDA and USDA. And these institutions, these regulatory agencies, are actually run by the big food processing companies, the big ag and the chemical companies that they're supposed to regulate. And he said to me that he'd been advising me for many years and on my campaign. And he told me that night that he was also advising President Trump. And he asked if I would talk to President Trump. And I said, of course. And about a few minutes later, I got a call from the president. And we talked. We had a very good talk. And then he invited me to come see him the next day. And I went to Minneapolis and saw him. We met again a couple of weeks later in Florida. And we talked about, not about the things that separate us, because we don't agree on everything, but on the values and the issues that bind us together. And one of the issues that he talked about was having safe food and ending the chronic disease epidemic. Our children are now the unhealthiest, sickest children in the world. Don't you want healthy children? And don't you want the chemicals out of our food? And don't you want the regulatory agencies to be free from corporate corruption? And that's what President Trump told me that he wanted. He also told me that he wanted to end the grip of the neocons on U.S. foreign policy. He said he didn't want any more $200 billion wars in Ukraine, that we could use that money back here in the United States. And the best way to build a safe America is to rebuild our industrial base and rebuild the middle class in this country. And don't you want a president who's going to get us out of the wars and who's going to rebuild the middle class in this country? And he told me that he wanted to end the censorship, because the whole basis of American democracy is the free flow of information. And we know that a government that can silence its opponents has license for any kind of atrocity. And can you think of any time that you can look back in history and say that the people who were censoring were the good guys? They're always the bad guys, because it's always the first step down that slippery slope to totalitarianism. And don't you want a president who's going to protect America's freedoms? And who is going to protect us against totalitarianism? And I want to ask you again, don't you want a safe environment for your children? Don't you want to know that the food that you're feeding them is not filled? And don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again? Thank you all very, very much, and God bless you, and God bless America.
Wow, that was something, huh? That was something. Fantastic guy. You know, he did well, and the polls are good and all, but you have to remember we have sort of like a two-party system. It was designed that way, and it's awfully tough. And as well as he did, he'd be at 10 and 15 and 16 points sometimes. That's a lot. That's a lot. But if he were in a regular system, like as a Democrat or perhaps as a Republican, but not against me, of course. But if he were in a regular system, there are a lot of people that maybe liked him the best, but they said, we can't vote. So with all of those votes he was getting, he has a lot of votes that he could have gotten. I think he's going to... Actually, much bigger than you'd see in the polls, and those numbers are big to start off with, but Bobby and I will fight together to defeat the corrupt political establishment and return control of this country to the people. And all who supported Bobby's campaign, I very simply ask you join us in building this coalition. It's a beautiful coalition in defense of liberty and safety, prosperity and peace. It's going to be an incredible coalition, and the relationship has been so good for so long. I have no doubt it's going to work and work well. But we have to win. We have to take our country away from these people that are going to destroy our country. We won't have a country left. So thank you very much. We need your vote. As you all know, this week the Democrats held their convention. You probably saw it, their party. The media says the big message from their convention was that we need to turn the page from the failures of the last. Do you believe it? They forgot. They've run it for the last 4 years. She was saying last night, we will stop the abuse. We will stop the high taxes. I said that you could have done it 3.5 years ago. In fact, you could leave that nice auditorium that you're in and go to the White House, right? Patrol, ICE, law enforcement. Close the border now. You don't need bills. I did it. And we had the best border in history. Put up that chart. Put it up. That chart. I love that chart. I love that chart. Put it up. But I love that chart. Not everybody realizes, but that chart is very meaningful. Even beyond the numbers that are on the chart, it shows the least numbers of illegal immigrants pouring into our country. Again, prisons from mental institutions, terrorists, where the bottom arrow is. But you know what? That chart is meaningful in many ways. Some people understand what I'm talking about. I love you, darling. I love you. I'm going to sleep with that chart tonight, Deb. I'm going to sleep with that chart. But isn't that a beautiful sight? Look at that. Look at that arrow. And then look what happens when that was my last week in office. And look what happens after I left. It's like a rocket ship. Look at that. Isn't that terrible? No vetting. No checking. We have no idea who they are. They just pour into our country by the millions and millions and millions. We need to turn the page of 4 years of calamity and failure. They have had calamity and failure, and say, Kamala, you've done a horrible job. You've been the worst vice president in the history of our country. Kamala, you're fired. You're fired. Get out. Get out. Get out, Kamala. She's the only person ever to get a nomination of a party without getting one vote. She didn't get one vote. Hey, maybe she's smarter than we think. You know, you could look at it that way. As vice president, Kamala cast the deciding votes, causing the worst inflation in decades, costing the typical American household $28,000 dollars. Think of this, higher prices. It was inflation, $28,000. As border czar, she flooded America with savage illegal alien criminals who have been raping, pillaging, and killing our cities and our towns. 3 years ago this week, she was the final vote on the catastrophic Afghanistan withdrawal. And we were withdrawing, but we were going to withdraw with dignity, with grace, and with strength. We would have been out faster, but we were going to keep Bagram. But that was the most embarrassing event in the history of our country, leading to horrific war and humiliation all over the world. When Putin saw that, he invaded Ukraine. It brought a lot of people back because they said the United States is run by incompetent people. The United States is no longer respected. It's no longer strong. That's what they said. A lot of these things that you're seeing now wouldn't have happened except for the horrible, horrible event of Afghanistan. You know, I was dealing with the leader of Afghanistan, Abdul, and I said, Abdul, you can't kill our people. He was killing our people. I had a strong talk with him. I'm not going to get into it exactly. We went 18 months without one soldier being sniped at or shot at. Not one soldier injured or killed. And then we had a tremendous election where we did probably 10 or 12 million more votes than we got the first time. You know, most presidents don't get as many votes the second time because people get bored, but they don't get bored with me. They get bored. No, they get bored. Like Barack Hussein Obama got far fewer votes the second time, and he won. He won. Have you heard of him, Barack Hussein Obama? Remember Rush Limbaugh? Barack Hussein Obama. He was nasty to me. You know, he was nasty. Michelle was nasty. They're all nasty. Nasty people. They were very nasty. I was surprised. I thought he was, and I was sort of nice to him. I said, no, you know, I like him. Good. It didn't matter. They were nasty to me. And, of course, last night, Kamala mentioned my name, I think, 21 times. She didn't mention the border. She didn't mention inflation. She didn't mention anything but my name over and over and over again. She blamed me for the border. I haven't been there in 4 years. You saw it. I had the safest border, the best border we've ever had. She blamed me for the border. They lied so much. They lied about everything. She said I was involved with something called Project 25. I don't even know what the hell it is. No, they really were nasty. And then they say to me, sir, please stick to policy. Don't stick to personality. You should be nice to people, sir. You have to be nice. I call them up. My geniuses, they get paid a fortune. Actually, not that much. But I call up my people. I say, they're knocking the hell out of me, and you say I shouldn't get personal. I have to get personal, don't I? I have to get personal. I have to get personal. They get personal. But I'm going to do my best. So they're allowed to get personal with me, but I'm not allowed to get personal to them. They call me names that are so bad. Our great First Lady says, but you're not that way, darling. They love our great First Lady, I will tell you that. They do. They do. But darling, you're not that way. I said, I know that. And if I say something just slightly out of order, like, she didn't do a very good job last night, please never, ever mention look or anything like that. If you ever say, she didn't look really great, that's the end of your political career, so I wouldn't say a thing like that. How about her opening where she said, thank you, 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 thank you. I said, what the hell is wrong with her, Deb? Debbie Lesko, she's a winner. Is that Sheriff Joe? Oh. That's Sheriff Joe. Look at that. A legend. You know, Sheriff Joe's looking at these clowns where they have no idea what they're doing, where people come in by the millions. He had nobody come in. Remember, he dressed everybody in pink. Remember that, right? Is that right, Joe? They had to dress in pink. I mean, it wasn't the worst thing. It wasn't bad. I mean, you know, you got a lot of killers that had a dress. But pink underwear, pink undershirt, and a pink outfit. Because he didn't want them coming into our country. Do you remember Arizona when Sheriff Joe was at the border? You didn't have people coming in. I think for the 1 year he had one person come in, but they got him. Now we have 3 million people coming in through your border. Your border. Oh, through the whole thing, it's ridiculous. It's not. Joe, it's an honor. And I'll tell you, people didn't treat you right. You are a legend, and you did a job like nobody else. True. Great going, Joe. And we love your wife. He lost his wife a few years ago, and she was a hell of a woman, right, Joe? But she's looking down at you.